What's up, everyone? John Rettinger from Techno Buffalo here with a full review for you of this guy, the bendy LG G Flex, all dolled up for AT&T. I put it through its paces. Let's find out if it's worth your smartphone buying buck. So let me begin this review as I do all of our phone reviews with a disclaimer. I use this device for 6 days as my daily phone on AT&T in Southern California. Todd, who did the written portion of the review, also used it for 6 days. If you want to see more detail and camera samples, hit the link down below to go to the full written review. So let me jump in and give you a quick refresh on all the specs in case you forgot what this crazy bendy phone is rocking. So first, it is a 6-inch flexible screen. It's 720. So that means it's 1280 by 720, and if you can do quick math, it's a 245 ppi. Powering it is a pretty beastly 2.26 gigahertz quad-core Snapdragon 800 chip. It's a tried and true, seen in a lot of devices that's fast and works well. 2 gigs of RAM, 13 megapixel camera on the back, and a 3 megapixel sensor on the front. 32 gigs of storage, but you're only going to get 24.12 usable space. Let me jump right into the big story here with the G Flex, and that's the screen. I'm not going to go too far into the topic of bendable screens, but I do want to get one thing clear and out of the way. There's a huge difference between curved glass that sits over a flat display, like we saw on the Galaxy Nexus, and the curved display that's employed on the G Flex. The former screen is still flat, while the G Flex itself is actually bent into the curve, as you can see on the device. So LG says the material it used is a plastic substrate. It's more resistant to cracks and damages than glass. Obviously, though, it's also more flexible than glass that we've seen in other smartphones before it. Also, the angle of the screen is supposed to be more inviting when viewing media, such as photos or videos, and regular flat displays aren't as all-encompassing and rounded. LG also says it applied a real RGB stripe pixel structure instead of the pentile layout used on other OLED screens. It's supposed to offer more accurate colors and alleviate distortion while viewing photos, although in all honesty, I didn't really notice a huge difference comparing the phones side by side with the Galaxy Note 3 looking at exactly the same picture. LG claims better body contours when holding it up to your face since the microphone sits sort of closer to your mouth. You can also put the phone in your back pocket without fear of breaking it. I tried it, and it super freaked me out since I've actually broken phones that way, but it did work. It wasn't all that comfortable, but for you, it might be. So no, you can put this in your back pocket, and LG says it's totally fine. With all that bendy flex action, you're still looking at a 720p screen on a huge 6-inch display. So low resolutions generally means that icons and text aren't as crisp as they are on 1080p screens. Also, the plastic substrate that LG used has some weird artifacts. If you have the display on a low brightness, even on high sometimes, you can still see particles that almost look like hairs on the page of a paper. Even though I tried to blow on it, wipe it off, they were not hairs. I found that it actually detracted from the overall sharpness pretty significantly. One caveat here though, it's my job to look at phone screens, and my eyes are getting pretty used to 1080p displays. If yours aren't yet, you might not notice it much. Also, some apps don't adjust to the screen appropriately, even though there's a setting there that should fix the aspect ratio. For example, Rayman Jungle Run wouldn't adjust properly in landscape mode at all. These aren't deal breakers by any stretch of the imagination, but keep in mind that there are situations where the screen just doesn't work as well as a flat one. So the moral here, the screen is more than a gimmick. It worked in some situations and doesn't in others. If you watch a ton of video, you're probably going to love it. If you read a lot of text though, you might want to try it in store first before you pick it up. Next, let's jump into hardware. LG seems super committed to the rear button things. There's not really much else to add here, aside from it really helps when taking selfies. I'm not really a huge fan of the layout on the back. My finger just didn't naturally find the lock button, although I do like that illuminates. If you don't get notifications on it, you can tell it you've got something. Fortunately though, LG's got a killer knock-on feature that lets you double tap the screen to turn it on or off, so my home button concerns didn't really matter that much. On the software side, LG is pretty UI heavy, so things like their Q-Slide app, which are going to get third-party support, their own voice command system, which doesn't even hold a candle to Google search. They got a video edit on their picture editor. There's a lot of software built in. They aren't all bad at all, and I got used to it pretty quickly. I still prefer stock Android, but LG's done a relatively nice job here. So it's a crazy fast phone. You won't notice any stutter or slowdown or anything like that. Doing pinch to zoom, doing scrolling, it's going to work really quickly. It's got a Snapdragon 800 after all, so it's going to be fast. Any sort of lag you might have seen on your last phone, you are not going to see here at all. Because I know you guys want to know, we did run it through a quadrant score, which isn't the most scientific test, but we do use it as a benchmark for all Android phones. And it got a score of 23,794, so pretty solid. So next, let's jump into camera. At first, I was really excited to use the G Flex camera because I think LG did a pretty awesome job on that front with the G2. Then we learned that the G Flex has a 13 megapixel shooter. It does not have the optical image stabilization found on the G2 and other phones like the Lumia 1020, which sucked. We had some mixed results, and I recommend you check out the full written review down below to get a full camera shots and see Todd's impressions on the camera. Of note though, the camera defaults to a wide 10 megapixel shot right out of the box, so you need to switch it to the 13 megapixel 4160 by 3120 4:3 aspect ratio to take full resolution shots. It's also the case with most widescreen phones, so I just wanted to make sure everybody sort of knew that. Also, the video camera defaults to 1920 by 1080, although you can use it to shoot UHD in 3840 by 2160, so pretty beastly. Of course, though, it's only 720, so you can't take the benefit of all that on the phone itself. But as we move forward and UHD screens become, the thing, you do have a nice future-proof camera already at your pocket. The point here, though, the camera's pretty average, but not on par with the G2. Don't trade in your DSLR for the G Flex, but if you want to take photos, of your kids or of a plant, it's going to work, but it's not going to be the best camera out there. So I'll admit, I was a bit concerned about battery life. After all, the phone is curved, and it does have a curved battery, but it turned out it was really, really impressive. It's a beastly 3,500 milliamp hour battery, and I was able to get through a full day with easily 35 to 45%. So my full day usually goes like this. Take it off the charger around 7 in the morning. Put it back on the charger around 10, 11 o'clock at night. Usually it's on Wi-Fi either at home or at the office. Pulling down 2 email accounts all the time. About an hour and a half to 2 hours of phone calls on it. Some pretty aggressive YouTube viewing. I'm always checking social media, Twitter and Facebook and the such. I don't do default screen brightness. I don't let it auto adjust. Usually I keep it to about 80%. I like a bright screen. So that's sort of my usage. So I was easily able to get through a full day. If I tweaked brightness, I could easily get through 2 days. So LG really nailed it on the battery side here. So what's the final verdict on this crazy bendy phone? It's pretty impressive. It doesn't do everything great. Things like the camera and the low resolution screen definitely detract it, but overall it's a really nice package. It gets a very solid 8 on our Tecno Buffalo 1 to 10 scale. If you read a lot of text though, you're going to want to try it in store because you might get some distortion with the curve. If you watch a lot of video though, you might be super happy. It's a smaller version of those curved TVs that are all the rage at CES. I like the phone. The phone is kind of neat. It's got the screen you can sort of bend a little bit. It's got a self-healing back, which if you scratch a little bit and you go ahead and rub your finger over, it gets a little bit of heat. Essentially will heal itself. It works pretty well. I would have liked if I had expandable storage, but not a big deal at all since it's 32 gigs on board. LG did a very nice job with this phone. If the next iteration improves the camera, and gives it 1080p screen, we're looking at a real winner here. But for right now, you can sign your name for a 2-year contract. I feel pretty confident that the LG G Flex is going to serve you well. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Please leave your comments down below. Let me know what you think of the LG G Flex. And of course, check us out at technobuffalo.com for all the latest and greatest tech news. And give the video a thumbs up if you choose. We always appreciate it. Until next time, I'm John Rettinger. See you in the next video. What's up, everyone? Thank you for watching that video. If you want to see more of the latest and greatest tech news, you can subscribe to our main Techno Buffalo channel by clicking the button right down below in my pants region, or click on the buttons to your right to see more videos.